Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. So Shenmue 3 is finally here and the reviews are not very favorable at first glance. You see here 3.5 out of 5 from Screen Rant, 69% on Metacritic, and I have 3 reviews from 3 different websites: Polygon, metro.co.uk and Eurogamer.net. I'll leave the link for all of these sources down in the description below so that you can read more and see if that game could be a potential buy for you or not. So let's begin with Polygon. So right from the title, it's very clear that something is not right with Shenmue, at least according to Polygon. And the title says Shenmue 3 is possible as a nostalgia, but not as a game. And here throughout the article there are some points made to talk about why the game, according to Polygon, is not that great, or at least not what a Shenmue fan expected. I myself am a Shenmue fan, and I have been waiting for this game for so long, just like the other gamers out there who have played the game on the Dreamcast. Here I have highlighted a few things from the article. One of the paragraphs says the basic rhythm of Shenmue 3 is the same as it always was. Ask everybody you meet a question until someone knows the answer. Get an entry-level job to make money. Buy toys from gacha machines to complete set of collectibles. Maybe get into a fight and then return to slowly plodding around, asking people questions. This much busy work with these many repetitive tasks hasn't grown easier to recommend with age. So from the very beginning here, it shows you why Polygon doesn't like the game itself. I think it's something that I can agree with, especially that games have evolved a lot recently and throughout the years at large. And what Shenmue 3, according to Polygon, plays like is what it was back 20 years ago. And of course, game mechanics have changed a lot. Everything in the games have changed a lot, not just graphics. Maybe it's not going to appeal for a lot of people, and especially for new buyers who haven't played the game back then. And then here we have a little sentence. Here says combat in Shenmue 3 is also essentially unchanged from previous games in the series, despite the increased resolution and frame rate. And the combat in Shenmue games in general is not like a direct combat, for example like an action games like Yakuza, but it's rather something in which you have to push some buttons in order to do some moves or actions, to dodge or to hit, etc. That's something that plays a lot more like a cinematic than actual fighting. I think that thing is something that I didn't like about the games, and maybe the fact that they maintained it is a little annoying and disappointing, at least in my opinion and in Polygon's opinion as well. And then here it says it's not the most enjoyable aspect of Shenmue 3, but again this focus on mundane tasks is true to the spirit of the original 2 games, which is asking questions, having those part-time jobs to earn a little bit of money and going on and forth just like that. It's that dependency on the original games that makes Shenmue 3 such a disappointment. Shenmue paved the way for games like Red Dead Redemption 2 by introducing a world that at least tried to feel real, forcing you to hold down a job while seeking revenge on your own time. And again, this is also very true. I agree with it. Shenmue 1 and Shenmue 2 were revolutionary games by the standards of what gaming was like 20 years ago. And I think here the reviewer wished for Shenmue 3 to be something of a revolution and not just something that stays faithful to what it was back 20 years ago. I can't really disagree with this, because when I first played Shenmue and Shenmue 2, I felt like there was something revolutionary in there, something different. The game, or the two games, played in a way that was unprecedented. This kind of open world. It wasn't that open because you couldn't go to a lot of places, but you could go to shops, you could go to places here and there, do some activities. Maybe because the hardware was very limited back then, we couldn't do a lot. But unfortunately, Shenmue 3 is also such a closed game, and it doesn't allow you to do a lot, even though open world games have evolved a lot. And if you play in other open world games, you can do a lot of things that you can't even expect that you're able to do. And then here saying opening 30 drawers in 2019 while Ryo repeats the same few lines about not finding anything feels disrespectful of my time. It's just hours and hours of that space without even the novelty of technological achievement to help make it tolerable. Again, you can see here the whole article is a little bit, harsh towards Shenmue. I think this kind of harsh tone here on this article from Polygon is due to the fact that someone who loved the games and played the games 20 years ago wanted more. So as a fan, you're probably like scrutinizing things a lot more than just people who have just played the game or who are about to play the game. And Shenmue 3 is like probably their first game. I get it, even though I think it's a little bit here harsh, but yeah, it's a mixed feeling here. So here we have an example of a script. So you can see like the script here is, the translation maybe is very poor. I don't know why the script looks like this, but it's just hilarious. Ryo asks someone and he's saying, I'm looking for someone called Yuan. And then the other person saying, no, I haven't. Could you help me? I'm looking for someone. No, I didn't. How do you know Yuan? I guess so. So you see here, this script is kinda really comical and so strange and doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Back then the translation wasn't that good either, but I don't remember that I have seen something, as strange as this. The numerous visual glitches, including people floating off the floor or seeming to sit down on chairs that don't exist, create the somewhat surreal feeling of a game that's both been rushed but also hidden away for a decade without any meaningful lessons learned from the maturation of gaming as a whole. Okay, again, the same old harsh tone for one reason or another. Let's just conclude this article with the very last paragraph. See, it's not the lack of elegant dialogue or the glitches that make this game so disappointing, but the idea that a series that was so obsessed with what would be possible for gaming in the future has turned into a way for people to attempt to revisit the past. This last closing paragraph here tells it all. Shenmue 3 is not a revolution, but it's just the continuation of something that has begun 20 years ago. And of course, people who have played the game 20 years ago and who have witnessed how far gaming has gone and how Shenmue and Shenmue 2 have been revolutionary at the time, but now they are just like a kind of polished remakes, probably. It just shows that the disappointment here is big, and that someone who wants the game to be totally different or revolutionary is going to be disappointed. Now let's move on to the article from metro.co.uk. I'm just going to go through these two articles very quickly because the same observations have been made, but there are a few things here maybe worth noticing. Graphically, the game is a very strange case. The backdrops can be very impressive, and while the geometry lacks detail, once you get up close, most of the locations are easy on the eye and full of interactive elements. The characters, though, all look and act like action figures, with very little facial animation and a bizarre range of art styles that goes from almost photorealistic to outright cartoonish. So it says here that there isn't that kind of consistency in the game as far as visuals is concerned. In terms of dialogue, the problem isn't the quality of the translation, but the deathless banality of what's being said. So again, here there is a criticism for the dialogue itself, and that has been addressed also in the Polygon article. Shenmue 3 and the other games are meant to be this slow and boring. It's not a bug, it's a feature. That thought alone makes Shenmue 3 even easier to love, even as it sits there adamantly refusing to entertain you in any traditional manner. Again, some kind of criticism here that the game is boring, and that the game mechanics are dated, and that there isn't much to do in Shenmue world. And then here we have a short review summary. So the pros, it says the open world environments are filled with detail and surprises, surprisingly impressive visuals given the low budget, and excellent music. And then the cons, incredibly slow paced even compared to the originals, with very little action, banal dialogue, poor characterization, and surprisingly little plot progression, annoying eating requirements. And the score is 6 out of 10. Everyone was hoping that the game's story would have an end on Shenmue 3, but it's not the case, as we will see later that Yu Suzuki is eager to make Shenmue 4. And then here I have chosen a few words from Eurogamer.net. So this is a website that's behind Digital Foundry, and overall Eurogamer finds, or the reviewer finds, this game rather nostalgic and appreciates it for what it is. In the combat that punctuates your adventure, there are the obvious flashes of Virtua Fighter, though this is nowhere near as finessed. It's functional though, and perfectly satisfying as you learn to and unlock new movesets. Indeed, Shenmue 3 is a deeper RPG than the first two games, with a proper leveling system to combat as you work your way up on the ranks at the local dojo and collect new moves on your way, while elsewhere you have an HP bar to tend to by keeping Ryo well fed with various items of food. It brings Shenmue that one step closer to the Virtua Fighter RPG that it was first conceptualized as all those years ago. Yes, Shenmue 3 can look and play like a Dreamcast game, but it looks and plays like a Dreamcast game that looks as off-kilter, maddening, magical, and majestic as the Shenmue and its sequel, both all-time classics. I think there is good reason to rejoice in that. So you see here the tone is rather more positive, significantly more positive than it was on Polygon. And it stems from the fact that Shenmue 3 was a rather big surprise when it was announced by Yu Suzuki. I mean, for almost 20 years, people have been asking when is Shenmue 3 going to be? And the fact that this game exists at all is a kind of a miracle, especially the very long time that it took to get a new Shenmue game. But then again, I don't think that's going to excuse itself for every player. Some players will rejoice the fact that Shenmue exists at all, and some players will think that it's really something that should have been much better, considering the fact that Shenmue and Shenmue 2 were revolutionary games by their time's standards. And as I said, Yu Suzuki wants to make Shenmue 4, and here is a letter to the fans, and it is to all the fans who have waited many years for Shenmue 3, and to all of the crowdfunding backers who have made this game possible. This project would not exist without your love, support, and the connections we've made along the way. With profound appreciation for all that you have done, I am happy to finally present to you Shenmue 3. During development, I expanded the scope beyond what I had originally envisioned. I'm happy we were able to include the distinct Shenmue charm throughout the game. I hope that this new chapter strikes even a small resonance in your heart. For as long as there are those who wish to see Shenmue live on, I will never give up on my own personal journey to complete its story. As with Shenmue 3, the Shenmue story is with you. I sincerely hope that together we can continue to spin the tale of Ryo and his adventures in Shenmue 4. This goes out to all those who have ever loved and supported Shenmue. Yu Suzuki. I think there's even here a video on YouTube about this thank you letter, and as you can see here, Yu Suzuki is being emotional in this letter, and is talking more about the emotional thing, the emotional connection that people had with Shenmue and Shenmue 2, and that he hopes that the game Shenmue 3 makes people remember what it was like to play Shenmue 20 years ago. But then again, Shenmue 4 is a question of not only people wanting it, but it's also a question of finances. As you have seen, when Yu Suzuki has kickstarted the game, people have been backing it up with huge amounts of money, and that was a good thing for the company, so that they expand the game beyond what they wanted to do at first, just like what Yu Suzuki has said here. And probably if the game doesn't sell well, it's going to be a little bit of a problem, because even with Kickstarters, there were companies like Sony and Deep Silver who have made connections with Yu Suzuki and who have supported him to make this game and to expand it even more. And those companies, of course, they rely on sales, so if the game doesn't sell well, I don't know how Yu Suzuki is going to make Shenmue 4 if the sales go well, and that's what I'm hoping. We will see another Shenmue game, and probably a better one. Thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed the video, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe for more, and I will talk to you again soon. Have a good one.